Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Marathon Marketing Moment. This is a new podcast that my sidekick here, Mark Weber, and I decided we wanted to try out. The whole idea being short podcasts to help you build a stronger business for 2022 and the future. Now, between the two of us, we've got a combined history in the industry of let's just say a whole lot of years. But time does fly when you're having a good time. And I don't know if two knuckleheads that love it more than me and Mark. Now, his background, you hear him laughing in the background, that this proves that these are unrehearsed and just off the cuff.
Yes.
But Mark's background is primarily as a professional photographer. He's got a long list of accolades over the years, very involved in PPA, in Nebraska PPA, and at Marathon. And me, I've just always loved the business and marketing side of images, and that's a part of my journey that I've been on for just a whole lot of years. Now, today's episode, we want to talk about branding. And I'm betting that just about everybody out there either needs to look at their brand from a new perspective because you're just getting started in this industry, or you've been out there 5, 6, 7, 10 years, who knows? And maybe it's time for a jump start. And as Mark and I are going to talk about, that doesn't mean you've got to throw everything out and start over again. In fact, I've got one of my favorite jokes I'm going to throw in that demonstrates just that. The point is that you might need to just do a little fine tuning to tie back in with the way trends change today. Remember, you've got millions and millions of people online, much more than ever before, certainly in the history of our lives and the internet. And that came out of the pandemic. It came out of our ability to share images and communicate. And that means that what you're doing online is almost the equivalent of the strength of, actually, it is the equivalent of the strength and mortar of a bricks and mortar storefront. So, on that long babbling introduction, hey, buddy, welcome
Hey,
back to
Skip.
another podcast.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, it's funny. Branding has been a discussion I've been having with a lot of our customers lately. And even just when I was at the Animal Image Makers convention here a couple of weeks ago in Texas school, um, I think part of it is just through osmosis that Marathon does so many printed products and the services like that. We just naturally kind of evolve into those kind of conversations. But what I'm finding is, especially the past couple of years, studios are really putting a new emphasis on how their branding looks, what it should be, and I couldn't agree more. And that's something that, as photographers, we get so caught up in the day to day doing what we do that all of a sudden, your website, let's say, is 5 years old or older, and you have to really look at that because it's kind of like the clothes you wear. You have to set a good first impression. And for a lot of customers, that is their first impression, that and social media. But, there's also that issue where when you really start to think about, do we need to rebrand? Sometimes you have to ask yourself, has our company evolved and we have a new story to tell, or maybe we've got an image problem? I had to laugh the other night. I was watching TV and Folgers had a new commercial on, and it cracked me up because they were using the Joan Jett song "Bad Reputation," because Folgers is not known for having a high-end coffee. And so they realized that and embraced it. And they're trying to get back into the game. And their motto right now is allow us to reintroduce ourselves to you. So they've got, if you pull it up on YouTube, and I'll put that in our blog post too. Um, if you pull that up, it's really clever. It'll be interesting to see if that works. But it just reminded me that, photographers face a lot of the same things that the big corporates face, and that is the market is shifting. Are you attracting the right customers? And are we about to have a significant change in services? And is there a problem that they're trying to solve? I mean, all of those things go into whether you need to rebrand or just brand yourself. There's a lot of new photographers out there that maybe don't even know what good branding is or what it should be.
Well, think about this. Everybody out there, in fact, every small business owner, And when I call you a small business owner, for you listeners out there, that includes if you're just one single photographer working freelance, it's still your business.
Mhm.
At ClickCon in Chicago 2 years ago, I spoke to a group of models and makeup artists about their business. And I had to remind all of them that they're small business owners. Now, they don't think of it that way, but everything they do in their presence is about building their brand. And we're a word of mouth business as well. So when somebody hears that boy, you need to get this particular photographer, and they go to your website or they go to your blog or they go to your Facebook page, you need consistency. In fact, that's one spot I'd love to start out with right now if you're good with it.
Yeah.
When we talk about branding, there's a piece here that's a consistent look and feel, style and attitude, and it cuts across your. It obviously starts with your website. It should go to your blog, then it should go to Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're finding the most success for your target audience. You want to have a certain look and feel and style of consistency, and then within your website. Um, your galleries represent a huge part of what your brand is and consistency. And one thing I think I might have said on another podcast, you never want anything in your gallery that isn't a wow image. Now, a wow image is an image so good that when somebody looks at it, they go, it's that suck all the air out of the universe sound. And it's so good that it's the only image you'd have to show to get hired.
Well said. I see that too in the studios that really have a strong brand in their marketing materials that come through Marathon. They are using sometimes just one image and it is stellar. And even if you're kind of like starting out and you're just kind of picking out some new images and you're not sure, get some input from your friends and even your customers. Sometimes your customers are your best source of input on that. But yeah, use only your best. That's one of the mistakes I see a lot on websites is people post too many things that aren't their best, and it can come through like on their homepage. You'll see some images and you think, wow, stellar. And then you go to the gallery page and there's some in there that are like a little underexposed. Some aren't quite as sharp. I mean, there's little inconsistencies like that. So only show your best whenever you can.
Well, I know not everybody will agree out there, but I've been saying for years you don't need any more than 10 to 12 images in your gallery.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things that I love that I know Jerry Guionis does, for example, at least I think he still does, he'll show a complete album, which supports his ability as a storyteller.
Mhm.
So it's this is one of those cases where less is more. But let's just switch for 1 second and just go to your logo because everybody always seems to think that, well, that's my brand. No, your brand is everything about you. Your brand is your reputation, it's your integrity, it's your ability to build relationships, it's about trust. But on the logo, think about all the products that we know every day. We know what the McDonald's M looks like right away. We know that if we see a guy carrying a turquoise blue Tiffany bag, that he's done something bad and he's in trouble, so it's a guilt gift. And Godiva chocolate. I mean, there are so many. Be the BMW logo. Now, I'm not saying that somebody that's in a small studio. In fact, let's use Ogallala since I spent a week there one night. There, somebody in a small studio in Nebraska, for example, you're not going to get to a point where your brand is known like the BMW logo, but you are going to get to a point where that logo means something to the people in your community and your clients. So it's more than just your logo, it's what your logo represents. And that takes me into one other spot, and then I'm going to shut up for a second, let you talk. Um, when you're looking at your website and your blog and all of this material, have it designed by a professional graphic designer. I know that,
Amen.
yeah, every now and then, I'm sure you've seen it too, Mark. You bump into somebody who's all excited about their site because their 14-year-old just took a design class, or their senior in high school, and that's fantastic and it's wonderful. But there are things that an accomplished designer understands, in terms of color combination. For example, years ago in a packaging study at Polaroid, I remember learning that black and gold and black and silver always had a very high perceived value, while pastels had a high value, but with a specific target audience depending on what you were selling. And in that time, at that time, it was mostly it related mostly to women. Things have changed a lot, but a professional designer understands how to make your website and your blog and your other components just pop, and that ties in with your logo.
Oh, so well said. And I can tell you firsthand, and this is a true story. Years ago, and I'm a fine art major, so I've got an art background, and I know Photoshop pretty well, enough to where I thought I can do my own logo. I can do some of this stuff. Now, I showed it to one of our professional designers here, and they kind of looked at me like I look at some photographers who are not professionals but are very proud of their work, and they show it to you, and you're thinking to yourself, how do I tell this person politely that this isn't really that good? And I had that same experience when I was showing some stuff that I had done to one of our designers, and he said he was very kind about it, but after he showed me what he could do with it, it was like, wow, what a difference. And that's the thing that I see in a lot of designer or a lot of logos today that are home designed, or they do a package thing where they just, it's like clip art for lack of a better term. And some of them are okay. I mean, they get by, but if you want something that truly is going to last you long term, find and seek out a professional designer, because they are going to ask you a lot of questions you maybe haven't even thought about yourself, including the image you're trying to portray, the type of product you're selling, all of these things. And there are some studios that have different branches of their business. Like they might have portrait business, and then they may do a high volume business, and they want to still kind of tie it together, but have separate entities or a website with that. And again, a designer knows how to tie that all together. And it doesn't take long for me to look at a logo and understand that now that I've got more experience with it. And yeah, so that's critical. Yeah.
Well, along with that also goes the importance of doing some work on demographics and knowing who your target audience is.
Mhm.
Because so often I see websites, and I used to blame it all on the male population having websites that just look too masculine.
Mhm.
When their target audience, for example, in portrait and wedding, in the portrait social categories, 98% of the decisions to hire a photographer professionally are made by women. So you want something that's going to look strong, that's going to have that appeal to female clients. But at the same time today, I've seen just as many um, female photographers that have websites that maybe the word isn't too masculine, but they're too technical, or they've got this really strong, high tech look. When, if you think about it, photography is about capturing memories. It's about helping people preserve those moments that they want to cherish the rest of their lives. It's not really, and for example, this goes to your about page. People don't care what gear you shoot with. They don't care what awards you've won. They want to know, mom wants to know if you can be trusted to capture the kinds of images she wants of her family. It's
Yeah.
that simple. It's about trust. It's about relationship building.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
And how they,
I get off on a tangent on this because I see so many artists whose work is tremendous, but they've thrown too much out there because they think they've got to show people everything they shoot.
that's a great point. And, websites, this isn't a podcast on that, but it ties in a lot with our branding because it's part of your image. That's a topic we probably will tackle at some point down the road too on one of these discussions, but also video. Include video wherever you can in there. Nicole Bagley does the best job on a website I've seen to date on this, and I'll put a link to her website in there. Um, Whenever you include a video, you can tell a story faster and touch the heart than you can with 100 images on your website. So that's something that it also creates an interactive piece and also becomes part of your image and your brand.
By the way, speaking of Nicole, I am a huge fan. I caught up to her, oh, it's probably 3, 4 years ago. She did a pet photography workshop here in Sarasota, and I still had Molly the Wonder Dog with me, and we went over there, and Molly got to model. But
Oh,
Nicole, it's Hair of the Dog, by the way,
yeah.
is her blog. But take a look at her website, and this is another issue that you just raised that reminded me that people make a mistake. Let's assume you are a great wedding photographer, but you also like doing some tabletop work and you're trying to break into commercial. If you're going to do that, you need to not confuse your audience. This is where you want to understand your demographics, because what happens, let's take an ad agency. You've got a 24 to 26-year-old probably working in an ad agency, shortly out of college, and they're given the directive of go find somebody that's going to do a nice job on photographing jewelry, let's say, for this client that we might be able to scoop. Well, if they come into your website and you've been doing a lot of nice close-up work and macro work, and you've got some great commercial tabletop work, but you're a wedding photographer, the minute they get to the wedding images, they will never go any further. That's it.
Yep.
They're done. You're not the photographer they want, and they're going to move on. In the same respect, if you've got mom and the bride looking for a wedding photographer and they happen to hit your commercial work, they're going to go the other direction too. So you need to remember who your audience is. This is why I always like to suggest to photographers that want to share multiple specialties. Keep your specialties that are under that brand umbrella. Uh, Give them a continuity that they connect. For example, if you're a wedding photographer, then the logical connection would be maternity, brides, babies, family, even pets. If you're a commercial photographer, then you want to do tabletop, could be close up and macro, could be some good product work. But give people a landing page where they can go in two different directions, or have two completely different websites and position them differently to the target audience.
Good point. And everybody's looking for a specialist today. And that's why it's so important to just create a website dedicated for that and a brand dedicated for that. Because, like you said, if they go there looking for one thing and they find another, they're going to just keep looking.
And they just move on. And that, let's go back to demographics for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's weddingreport.com. Um, if you Google wedding stats, you'll find the link. But there is a company that gives you everything based on zip codes, and based on your state. So if, for example, you're a wedding photographer in Nebraska and you want to find out, all right, where am I missing the opportunities here? You can go into that report. I think it's 125 or $175 for a year subscription, and you can get a report that gives you every single thing about the demographics, including how much are they spending on flowers, on makeup, on hair, on travel, on the band, on the gown, on the tux, on photography. You'll find every single component in there. And the second part of that that's really great is when you start looking at what brides and grooms are spending on weddings, you see all the different vendors, and those become ideal partners for you to take your brand and do a postcard mailing, for example, an oversized card, and bring in a couple of partners, or cross promote with a florist and a caterer. I mean, the list goes on because you don't have to do this stuff alone, but you still have to have a brand that people understand.
Absolutely. And that brings up a good point. When you have some and you have those demographics and you know where you're going to target and you've got a focused plan on that, now you need some support materials to help keep selling you as well. Because everybody that is successful today that I talk to have a combination of what I call a PR kit. And consists of a business card, a multi-fold brochure of some site, and of course the website, like we talked to, that's dedicated to that. Referral cards. If their social media graphics all carry that brand forward. They've got flat cards so that they can network with another business. They have a studio folder that holds all of that, including their price list. All of these things tie in together. And if you put them out on a table and you were to just look at them and not even see a name on them, just from the design alone, you should be able to recognize that this is the one company and that's their brand.
Yeah, I mean, The whole idea is to create top of mind awareness. That's an old expression and started very early on in the, well, it goes back to publicity days, but in the internet, it just simply meant that you've put so much work out there that your readers are getting to know that you want them, the minute they think of photography, they're thinking of your name.
Yeah. I don't know
So,
about you, but when I talk to photographers, sometimes I'm amazed at how many don't carry a business card with them.
oh my
But
God,
that just always
I'm with
floors me.
you.
But the ones that do, I got to say, the ones that do always impress me. They always have something that looks professional, and they're the ones that obviously understand the priority of it. And I can always tell too a marathon customer because they pull out the teeny tiny brochure. This is kind of like three business cards end to end that folds up, kind of like a business card on steroids. When they show that to me, it's like my favorite because it's interactive. It's one of those things that when you hand that to a customer or a potential customer, they don't tend to throw it away because it is interactive.
Oh, I think that's great. Hey, we're just about, well, we are out of time. We could, you and I could talk about this for hours.
Yeah,
Um, I want to give you my favorite closing joke, unless you want to add anything else that you think we've missed so far.
you're the funny man.
Well, there I am. Here I am, the funny man. So here's the point that we made in the beginning, that you don't have to throw everything out when you're talking about rebranding. There's still components that you want to keep so people know who you are. So we've got a woman walking down the street. She's 55. She hears a voice from the heavens that says, "You're going to live to be 100." And she walks another 50 feet. She hears it again. She gets home that night. She said, "Oh my God, God has told me I'm going to live to be 100. I'm in my 50s. I'm going to go get my body fixed." And she goes out and she gets a tummy tuck and a facelift. And she then goes to the hairdresser. She takes her hair back to the same color it was when she was 20. She is absolutely stunning. She goes to Neiman Marcus and spends a fortune. She's got $10,000 she's run up in new clothes. As she's walking out of the mall, she gets hit by a bus and dies. And she got up to heaven and she looked at God and said, "What happened? You told me I was going to live to be 100." And he looked at her and says, "Hey, I didn't recognize you."
Oh,
Now, oh, now here's the point, everybody. You want to make your work the best it can be, but you don't need to redo everything so that people don't recognize who you are. So keep those components, those common denominators over the years that have helped build trust in the community. Your logo, I remember years ago, a photographer we worked with was changing the logo she was changing her logo every 6 to 10 months because she was tired of it. Your logo is your logo. If you think it needs to be upgraded a little bit, that's fine, but you don't have to change everything to our point when we started this today. You might just need to jumpstart a little bit and start to feature some new things that you're doing and bring in some new partners.
and if you want us to give you input, contact us.
In fact, that's great. Where do they go to find you?
Mark W at marathonpress.net, or you can call at 800-228-0629, extension 283.
And you'll find everything that I write at skipcohenuniversity.com, as well as intros on a lot of the marathon blog posts. And I'm Skip at MEI500.com. Give us some feedback and let us know what directions you need help in, because that's why we're having fun with this. We're here to help you guys make 2022 the best year you have ever had.